actually PTSD Awareness Day, and for those of you who are scarred from watching that video, not to mention the kids, and may have to seek out therapy on your own, well, up next we're going to be talking to Brian Fay, who's dealing with Concerned Veterans for America and what they're doing to help veterans navigate through PTSD challenges at the VA. That when we come back. Welcome back to Nights with Chris Boyle. Joining me now is Florida's Strategic Director for Concerned Veterans for America, Brian Fay. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Brian, so tomorrow is PTSD Awareness Day. I know that's a very important day in the lives of veterans, especially combat veterans, of which there are many now in the United States, who are dealing with the struggles that they brought back with them from their time overseas. Tell me a little bit about what Concerned Veterans for America is doing and how you got involved personally with the organization.
So Concerned Veterans for America has been in the fight for veterans for a while now. We actually just had our 10-year gala last year, and the work that we have been doing is instrumental in getting veterans better access. Before 2014 VA Phoenix scandal, veterans were literally dying waiting for mental health appointments. And once that scandal came to light, it actually allowed us to make some headway and really improve veterans access through the use of a community care program and the Mission Act that we got passed in 2018. I got involved with Concerned Veterans for America because I've got my own horrors with the VA and some of the things that I've struggled with in getting my own treatment. And through a connection that I knew here in Orlando, I actually reached out and tried to see how I could get involved in telling what CVA is doing in this area. And they actually ended up offering me a job. And I've been with them since 2021.
And you're a veteran yourself, right? Tell me a little bit about what your experience was like as a veteran when you first got out and realized, okay, now I'm on my own. I don't have direct military leadership guiding me through this experience, but I have to deal with the VA, and I might have all these things that I'm dealing with. What was it like trying to navigate that on your own?
So I found right when I got out, the unfortunate thing is that the VA still kind of has a one-size-fits-all model when it comes to treating mental health issues. And when I got out, I was immediately assigned to a VA psychologist, and I was 29 years old at the time, and I sat down across from this other 29-year-old who looked like he had just graduated from college and hadn't seen anything yet. And immediately he asked, well, let's get started, and just kind of turned away from me and faced the computer for the entire hour while he asked me a series of questions. And I walked out of there knowing 100% that was not going to be how I was going to get the help for my PTSD. And from there, it was actually a struggle. This was pre-Mission Act, so this was 2015, and I had to actually fight to try and get access outside the VA to see a licensed therapist that might have some alternative for the treatment instead of just regurgitating trauma stories from my deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. So unfortunately, the VA just actually didn't approve anything, and I had to ultimately, through friends and family, and I was lucky, I'm one of the lucky veterans, I guess, that I was able to gain access to somebody that treated me pro bono. And from that, I was be able to start my healing journey and really get to where I'm at today.
I think it's really important that a light is shown on people who don't honestly have access to the same luck that you did in that circumstance, finding someone who was able to treat you pro bono, because I mean, unfortunately, there's so many people who navigating this, like you said, trying to get approval for anything that's not done by a system that moves very, very slowly can be a full-time job for folks and can be very, very overwhelming. And I mean, the reality is, people think, oh, it's just, everyone has to deal with making things like phone calls or doing this and that, but the reality is when you're working a full-time job, when you're trying to deal with potential medical issues, and when you're dealing with a system that seems like it's overwhelmed at times, did you find when you were trying to deal with the VA, like they had the adequate capacity to even deal with your claims or your requests, or did you feel like even trying to get things done was a full-time job?
Even trying to get things done was a full-time job. And I am an Orlando native, so I moved back to my home after military, so I had a great family support system. But if I hadn't had that, I honestly don't know where I'd be, because I was having to lean on my mom to help me call and try and track things down. I was leaning on my wife at the time to try and track things down. It wasn't just a full-time job for me as the former service member. I had to get friends and family involved too. And then ultimately, like I had said, I had to try and find someone to get treated pro bono. Now, you highlighted, not everyone is so lucky. And right here in Florida, we've actually had 5 veterans since 2013 commit suicide at the VA parking lot in Bay Pines, Tampa. So here's a facility whose whole job is to treat veteran mental health issues, and you have veterans sitting on their service records in their car in a parking lot with a letter pinned to their chest about how the VA failed them, shooting themselves in the head. I mean, if that's not a testimony to the severe gap and the failures that are happening at the VA every day, I don't know what is.
That's, quite frankly, it's gut-wrenching to hear. I mean, these are, it sounds like terrible stories, but these aren't just terrible stories. These are real people, and these are people who we depended on as a nation, quite frankly, that we made a lot of promises to and that we're obviously not fulfilling. The proof is right there in our faces. So tell me a little bit about why you guys got involved, not just you personally, but Concerned Veterans for America, in helping people navigate the situation. Obviously, the need was there. So tell me a little bit about how you guys were able to pinpoint some of the areas where service was most needed and then come in to help supplement that for the veterans who are most in need of your help.
Ultimately, what we were able to pinpoint down that veterans benefit from choice. Once we established that, it was relatively easy to figure out what the solution was, and that's to give veterans the same access to healthcare that every other American has, right? Right now, if I wanted to be treated for my PTSD, I have to go be seen at the Lake Nona VA hospital here. Now, they might have appointments for me, but last time I checked, we're looking at a 28-day wait period to see a psychologist, and they're not supposed to be greater than 20. And, when someone's in mental health crisis, when someone needs to be seen at a provider, waiting even 1 day can be too long. So we have veterans waiting 20, 30, 40 days. So once we identified that was one of the main issues, is the long wait times and letting veterans have a little say over how they get their mental health treatment, the solution was to give veterans the best access that we can. So in 2018, that was one of the inspirations for the Mission Act and creating the community care program was, hey, if these veterans are going to be waiting this long to get veterans killing themselves in the parking lots, if we're going to have veterans going and dying by suicide by cop because they got turned away from a VA mental health facility, let's allow them to go see a doctor in their community. And that was signed under President Trump in 2018. And since then, it has saved veterans' lives. But unfortunately, the fight's far from over because we actually have the current sitting VA secretary is going before a HVAC committee, and he is testifying that we need to roll back that program, that we need to roll back holding the VA employees accountable, that we need to keep veterans in the VA system because that is where they're going to get the best treatment. But in the meanwhile, we're actually seeing behind the scenes the VA is dismantling the Mission Act program. They've taken down the information off the website to the point where we had to go with our foundation and create a website where veterans can find out about the Mission Act and how to act. So we're taking it a step farther, and we're actually supporting the Veterans Health Act, which is going to create a mental health pilot program that allows veterans to get seen. And then also the Veteran Healthcare Freedom Act, which even takes that a step farther, and it allows veterans to have full choice and be seen in the community, essentially removing the VA from the referral process for getting seen outside of it.
So my question is, why would they want to roll that back? I mean, not to be cynical, but it seems like the only reason why they would be concerned with veterans seeing doctors that are outside of the VA official network would be financial reasons. I don't want to be so cynical to say our government would prioritize basically a VA employment scheme over the actual health of our veterans, but quite frankly, what else could it be?
To be honest, and this is my opinion, I think it comes down to the money, as with most things. If you have a budget as large as the VA's, how are you going to justify keeping it if all of a sudden every OIG report comes out saying they're failing at wait times, they're failing at scheduling our veterans accordingly. Veterans are, again, dying, waiting for access to health care, not just mental health, but we're talking cancer treatments as well, life-saving treatments that veterans aren't getting. If all of a sudden we're looking at that, we're like, well, why, if we're paying out $21 billion into the community care program, should we be upping your budget another, $6,500 billion this fiscal cycle? And as we ask those questions, we actually have to, then comes the next step of accountability. Well, where are you spending this money? Where is it going? So I think when you look at the money, it's really truly, it's they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be held accountable to the mistreatment and mishandling of our veterans.
So I have to ask, how can folks at home, veterans who are watching this program, or folks who have family members who are veterans, how can they gain access to this app? And also, what are you guys doing to get the word out? Are you working with county mental health services? Is there anything that's been done to get this app into the hands of veterans who need it most?
So we, with our foundation, Concerned Veterans for America Foundation, our sister organization, we actually do a lot of education and outreach. We meet with American Legions, VFWs across the nation, and we do a Mission Act presentation and try and educate veterans on how they can best access. Because ultimately, we have to be our own advocates. We have to be the loudest voice in the room. We have to scream. We have to say that we deserve better. We have to. So that's the first step. If you're a veteran, you need to get involved in being your own best advocate for this, because that's how we're really going to get change happening. Also, we have a My VA Story page, and this is where you have the ability to go in there and you can share these stories of you not getting the access that you need in a timely manner, or you not getting seen in an appointment, or not being taken seriously. Share those, because when we go meet with congressmen and senators, those stories go so far. I mean, I can bring the data and I can bring some of the emotional cases that I've experienced personally, but when I've got the story of thousands of veterans behind me every time I walk into a room, or one of our other strategic directors or many engagement directors across the nation, that's what gives our voice strength. So get involved,